What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports, the podcast where we talk sports and other girly things. I am Sam Cardona, and thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. Once again, another solo week, but nonetheless, it's totally fine. I am mentally preparing for the amount of people I'm going to have on the show this year during football season. Very stoked about it. Very gonna be excited was what I was just gonna say. So yeah, that's the mental state I'm in right now. I'm recording a lot later in the day than I usually do, so bear with me. Thank you. We have a few things to go over today. I am especially excited to go over one of these storylines because I've been felt like an investigative reporter doing this for the past day basically. So I'm very excited for our episode for this week. But before I do, plug time! Don't forget to follow us on or subscribe on all podcasting platforms, wherever it is that you get your podcasts from. Please subscribe to The Girl Who Talks Sports and leave a respective review on platforms. It is very helpful for me. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're not watching on the YouTube channel, you can go ahead and check us out there. I post full-length podcast video recordings so you can watch me talk instead of just listen to me talk. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on the little bell to make sure you get notified every time I upload a new video. And make sure that if you're watching the video, give it a little bit of a thumbs up. And finally, don't forget to follow us on the social media. So you can follow me on Twitter at TGWTS Podcast, where I rant about a lot of things, and it's a very fun atmosphere. Also very toxic, but we love it there. We love Twitter. And you can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Girl Who Talks Sports. Also good time in those social media channels as well. And that is about it. Oh, and don't forget, I'll remind you all next week, but I'm officially part of the review and preview crew. So I am going to be doing a weekly show, Big Blue Avenue, which is going to be covering, as you can see on my hat here, the New York Giants, which I'm very excited about with my two co-hosts, Tom Scavetta and Hank and Dichter. Our first show will be next Thursday, September 9th at 7 p.m. on the the Facebook page of Review and Preview. So make sure that you go and check that out, like the page, to make sure that you can come back and watch us. I'm very stoked. And if you want to check out our full analysis of the 53-man roster of the New York Giants, it is now on the Big Blue Avenue YouTube page. So you can check that out as well. That was a really fun video to record with those dudes. Okay, I think that's enough plugs for today. Now, our what can we call this? I guess our formatting of this week's episode is a little different because this week we're going to start with a segment where normally I kind of go through some stories and then lead into segments. Now, this week we are jumping in to our first segment on the show and my favorite segment on the show. Tea time. Tea Time is my favorite segment on the show because we delve into the hot, steamy gossip of the sports world. And this week, my goodness, this is what I was talking about, investigative reporting. A lot of people have been talking about this, actually, but I have been on the case since Sunday. It's been 3 days at this point that I've been just looking into all this. And it is Bishop Sycamore High School. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about this, but if you haven't, I'm about to completely divulge every piece of information I can possibly give you about this. And you might be saying, Sam, why are we talking about high school football? We have the NFL season coming up. No. Trust me, this is the tea, and it's insanely hot, and it's weird. It's a weird tea. It's very strange. So let's start from the beginning, all right? It is Sunday afternoon. I am sitting on the couch with my father and my grandmother. We're trying to find something to just have on the TV. We found the Little League World Series. We were watching a little bit of that. We were skipping between things, and we were looking on the guide, and we see high school football on ESPN, right? And we were like, cool, we'll flip between that and Little League, get a little bit of sports action here on this Sunday afternoon before we dedicate every Sunday to our NFL football. And we turn on this high school football game. And it is IMG Academy versus Bishop Sycamore High School, based out of Columbus, Ohio. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of either of these teams, and I didn't give it a second thought. Then we see how horrible the score is and how one-sided the score is. That IMG Academy is completely whooping Bishop Sycamore's butts. And we were like, wow, this team is like not that good. Like, dang, they're really just horrible. We're looking at them, we're like, wow, they're like not put together, like at all. This whole thing looks really weird. And my dad and I are talking about it, and we're like, this game is giving us a weird vibe, right? We were like, this is really strange. I don't know what's going on here, but like something's, like, but at that point I was like, you know what? We just must have caught a weird Sunday afternoon game. They were just looking for something to put on. They put on this high school football game, whatever. I don't think about it. Then we find out a lot of things come Monday. Monday comes around, and I start finding out little tidbits of information here and there and wherever. I see the final score of this game. It is 58-0. And I've seen some people talking about IMG Academy, some of the top programs in the country for high school football. Just overall weird stuff. And I'm like, why is it playing this weird rinky-dink kind of team over here? And that's when all of the truth starts coming out about Bishop Sycamore. And the memes, my God, the memes. So this is what we find out about Bishop Sycamore High School, right? It is not a, physical school. It is an online charter school, which in and of itself is just, a strange thing that you have a football team and you're an online school. But, all right, so they're an online school. They are not listed on the Ohio High School Athletic Association. I did find out that they are listed in the Texas Christian Athletic League. And you might say, oh, Bishop, Sycamore, Bishop, it was a Catholic school, right? And then I found out that no schools in Columbus, especially with the name Bishop Sycamore, are associated with the Diocese of Columbus, Ohio. Now, if you're a Catholic school, you're associated with the diocese of that place. So it made very little sense as to why they were not associated with the diocese and they were not part of the Ohio High School Athletic Association. It doesn't. That's literally, we are just flicking off the crumbs of the surface here. Let's jump into the school website, right? The school website has an About Us section that is completely blank. A staff section that is completely blank. It has a total of 5 blog posts, and not one has been posted since May of 2021, which you would assume with high school football season approaching, that there would be some sort of situation where you would put some blog posts out about your football program, right? Well, that would make a lot of sense. And then they have another tab that says the 2021 schedule coming soon. Also does not have any schedule on there whatsoever. And if you could imagine, we're about to be underway into school is about to start and there's still no schedule, which is very, very odd. Now, moving on to another part of this that you might thinking oh, okay, this is very strange. This is giving some red flags, we don't know what's really going on here, right? And I'm like, okay, and there's more. Then someone found a GoFundMe page with the name Bishop Sycamore High School football program, I think. It was specifically for the football program. And it was for all these different things. I read a lot of this I got this from CBS Sports, and I got this from awfulannouncing.com. Which Awful Announcing originally I was a little skeptical, but this is such a well done article. I mean, they could have told me anything, but it really had so much information. The person who wrote this article just did a really good job. But they put the full little bio on the GoFundMe, and there was punctuation errors, there was grammatical errors, there was words misspelled. It was a very strange bio about trying to raise money, which was a $20,000 goal, and about $200 were raised, and now you can no longer donate to this fund. That was what I was like, oh, this is super duper this is weird. Now let's think about the scheduling of this game to be on ESPN on a Sunday afternoon. I discovered that ESPN, at least for high school football, does not they don't book these games themselves. They have a secondary marketing company called Paragon that is in charge of booking these things. And there was a lot of call on both ESPN and this Paragon company because of the fact that they found out that these kids who played Sunday afternoon also played Friday afternoon against another team. So they played 2 football games within 3 days of each other. So you could imagine that that's really not the safest and healthiest bet for these high school kids. So Paragon said that they would have canceled this if they knew the kids had played previously, but there was no schedule. There was nothing. There was nothing for them to even verify that Bishop Sycamore, anything that they told ESPN about them being like a top program in football, all this kind of stuff. Like there was nothing to say this is correct. So they just went with it, which is very strange. I also saw a picture from some announcers from a few weeks ago that got like a quote unquote roster, and it's just kids' names and positions. Like there's nothing else on it. It was very strange. And now people are considering the fact that these players' safeties might be in trouble. And if you think about the fact, not only are these they double booked this team, basically. They played Friday and Sunday. It is also allegedly, there's a better way to put this. There is also an alleged count of children on this team. Some children. That there's only between 30 and 35 kids on this team, which means that they are playing both sides of the ball. These kids are playing both offense and defense, entire football games, and they played 2 games in a matter of 3 days. Which is, I can't even, I've been trying to explain this to just people. I've been talking to my mom about this, and she is just as entranced in this as I am, and it's just absolutely insane that the amount of information I'm finding out about this whole school is so weird. So that's things that people are like, wow, this is really dangerous for these kids to be playing this much and this often, and they're playing more than one position. It's just very strange. Oh, and also they obviously have some trouble in terms of their uniforms because they didn't match completely. And it was very obvious when they zoomed in, when I was watching it on Sunday, briefly, they zoomed in on a huddle, and their helmets were so chipped, scratched, messed up. And I get it, obviously, it's a contact sport, but these looked very worn. These helmets looked very worn. They also didn't all look the same. They were a bit mismatched. They were just wearing black jerseys and silver pants. Some of them had some red on, but not everybody had red in there. It was just very, very, very strange. And this last little bit of craziness is that this is not the first time that they've played more than one game in a weekend. Apparently, the head coach has arrest warrants against him, and my brother told me earlier that the head coach was fired. I cannot confirm or deny that that was real, but that's what he told me. And also, there are kids on this team that are not high school age. So there are kids that are probably should have been in college by this point, but are still playing for this high school team, which then led to the memes of, I don't know if this is dated or not. For me, I was like, this is fantastic, but for some younger kids, they might not get it, or younger people. There's a movie called Accepted, with Justin Long from back in the early 2000s, where these kids don't get into college and they create their own school to trick their parents into thinking they're going to college, and it's called the South Harmon Institute of Technology, and the acronym is SHIT, and it's very funny. If you want to watch it, it's on Netflix. It's a hilarious movie. I've seen it 47 million times. But a lot of people are comparing Bishop Sycamore to South Harmon Institute of Technology, and it's kind of great. Now, and then I read another awful announcing article about them reaching out to a former parent, or not a former parent, but a parent of a former player from Bishop Sycamore. This man's name is Ray Holtzclaw. He is the father of former quarterback Judah Holtzclaw, and he had so much to say, and I'm not going to get into everything because it will be a little bit repetitive of things I've already talked about, but he talked about the fact that when he was with his child and they were dealing with this football program, they were a couple weeks out from the first game and they didn't have any uniforms. He was like, hey, where are the uniforms? We need uniforms. And he was like, they were like, yeah, no, we're working on it. We got this. And he was like, it's so weird that we don't have uniforms yet. And they asked about schedules. And this was last year. And they said, oh, well, a lot of these games might get canceled to COVID. And they never told anybody where these games were. He also said that there was no practice field that was specific to them. They had to jump around to different practice fields. And when they went to camps, college camps that high schoolers go to, I guess in the summertime, this was the one that really blew my mind. They would go and they'd stay in a hotel or something along those lines. And one time this guy, Ray, who as a father was with his son staying there, and they were like, hey, you didn't pay for your room yet. And he goes, oh, I was under the impression that the school would be paying for this. But, if you need to take it out for me, for my room, then whatever, it is what it is. And then he found out that he was charged for every single room for this team. And he calls them and he was like, I'm not the coach. I will pay for my room, but I'm not paying for everyone else's room. And they're like, well, nobody is paying for these rooms. And that's one of the biggest red flags. They're literally and there was even times where they've gotten thrown out of hotels because they hadn't paid for their stay. And this and that and blah, blah, blah. That was just absolutely bonkers. And then there was another time where they brought all of the kids to an all-you-can-eat buffet and, had the kids eat so much. Because I don't know what the situation is with some of these kids. It's possible that they might be low income. They might not have a place to eat. They might not even have a place to stay. But I don't know what these coaches in this football program is trying to accomplish here, because they're stuffing these kids with food and then they just send them off, and then they're going to hotels or apartments, and then some of kids have even been evicted from apartments. It is just I can't even fathom some of this information. So when I say tea time, several parts of a tea time here. It is so insane and so detailed, and there's even things that I haven't even read about yet, and there's probably even more pieces of this information that I don't know about yet. But that is what's going on with Bishop Sycamore High School. I can't I wish I knew what was happening, but that is our tea time for this week. Let us move on to our NFL talks. The rest of our episode is all NFL. Obviously, we're not even caring about other sports anymore. It's football. It's football time, baby. Football is so back. Football is here. We are ready to go. So, football time. The biggest storyline of today and probably for the rest of the week. Let's be honest. People are going to be talking about this for the rest of the week. Cameron Newton. Cut. Released. Went away. Whatever you want to call it. Cam Newton, no longer a Patriot. And I will actually insert a picture here on the YouTube video of my genuine face after reading that Cam Newton was going to be released by the Patriots. My mom took it of me. I had I had woken up maybe an hour earlier. I was perplexed. It was ridiculous that this happened. Cam Newton, released by the Patriots, and that means Mac Jones is the official QB1 for the Patriots. Now, if you guys listened to last week's episode, which if you didn't, you can go do that. Some things might be a little outdated, but this one in particular will still be relevant. I talked about Cam Newton last week because of these quote-unquote COVID misunderstanding that happened, right? This COVID misunderstanding happened. Long story short, if you don't want to go back and listen to the whole episode, Cam Newton went out of the New England area for a doctor's visit of some sort that the club apparently approved of. And due to the NFL COVID rules and testing and so on and so forth, Cam Newton somehow violated these rules, even though he never actually had COVID. He never actually tested positive for COVID. He had to not be back into the facility for 5 days, which Bill Belichick said this gives Mac Jones the opportunity to take the QB1 job. And then I saw a video of Colin Cowherd, which I know we don't like. We do not like Colin Cowherd, and I will die on this hill. However, he does have reputable sources. And his source said that the reason that Cam Newton lost his job was because of the COVID misunderstanding, which is bonkers. Just absolutely insane to think about, which makes me think Bill Belichick, I feel like things never happen by accident in the New England organization. I have no trust whatsoever. Not after Deflategate, not after the cheating scandals, not after any of this stuff with New England. You cannot convince me that somehow Bill Belichick wanted Mac Jones to be the starter and somehow divulged this whole plan and put it together to get Cam Newton out of here. Why was he cut? That's what I want to know. Why was Cam Newton not just placed as a backup? Do you think he really would have made a stink? He might have made a stink. He might have been like, oh, I'm the backup, blah, 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 blah. But then honestly, he probably just would have sat down and just like done whatever he needed to do. I know he's ego driven, like Cam is the way that he is, but like he wouldn't have just dipped. He would have stayed on the team. And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm like so perplexed by this. The backups for Mac Jones now are Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. Why do we think, like, what did you get out of this? That now Cam Newton is no longer a Patriot? Like, wouldn't you have rather have him as a backup than releasing him and having someone else pick him up? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. I wish I understood what the thought process here was. And like, I highly doubt it that Mac Jones is going to like go to the playoffs and make the Super Bowl this year. Not saying Cam Newton would have done that. But like, don't you have a better chance of doing that with Cam Newton than a rookie quarterback that you just drafted this year? Unless you plan on cheating again? I just don't understand. I really don't. But what's done is done. Cam Newton is no longer a Patriot, and therefore now we have the question in front of us, where's Cam going to go? Because I do believe that Cam's not going to just sit there on the market. While he might not be the most fantastic quarterback, he could be really great somewhere, and he could probably be a really solid back, which at this point, that the fact that the season is just about to start, like, he's probably fine wherever. He'll probably just take a job wherever. So where is he going to go? My first thought process, which will then lead us into our next conversation topic, is Houston. Houston kind of has a quarterback. They have Tyrod Taylor there. And Tyrod Taylor, we know his tragic story of several times getting hurt as a starting quarterback and having a rookie come in to fill his place, and then him losing his starting job. See Exhibit A, Baker Mayfield, and Exhibit B, Justin Herbert. It's not his fault. He's a phenomenal athlete. I really think he's a great QB. I want Tyrod Taylor to be the starter in Houston. But Cam could go there, and if not start, back up Tyrod Taylor. And I think that could be solid because they need all the help they can get down there, right? Secondly, I see a notification pop up on my phone which blew me out of the water, to be quite honest with you. But now that I've been thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense. Originally, I was like, what? And now it makes sense. The Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys thinking about picking up Cam Newton. But if you think about it, Jerry Jones has come out and said, Dak's ready to go. Dak is good to go. We're ready with Dak. Dak? It's like the narrator. It's just like, Dak's ready to go. Narrator, Dak was not ready to go. Like, Dak is a little fragile right now. He has the shoulder thing. He had the ankle thing last year, like the injury. If you guys been keeping up with Hard Knocks, and also if you haven't been, you could check out my recaps on my TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. You guys can check out the recaps of Hard Knocks if you haven't been looking at those. But he's like been like very minimalized at practice. He like really wasn't able to throw. He didn't play in the preseason game. He's coming off of this injury. Like, it makes sense to have someone like Cam as your backup. It made sense to have like someone like Andy Dalton there last year. So now if Dak, God forbid, goes down, I know he's my division rival, but I like Dak. I want him to succeed. I want him to be a good quarterback. Like, if he goes down, Cam is a great addition to that. So those are two teams that might have Cam Newton as a quarterback. Quarterback 1, quarterback 2, whatever may be. But yeah, that was a wild storyline to come out of this morning. People have been literally talking about it all day. But now I have to listen to Mac Jones all the time. This and that and Mac and Jones and I can't. I don't like him. Maybe one day my mind will change. But as of right now, I do not like Mac Jones. I do not like the Patriots. I do not like them. But doesn't matter anyway. Bills are winning the division and going to the Super Bowl anyway. It doesn't even matter. Moving on. I stand on that ground. I will not move. So I said Houston, right? Might end up in Houston. Cam might end up in Houston. If that happens. So you might think, well, Sam, what about Deshaun? Deshaun was not cut or traded today on the trade deadline by the Houston Texans. I don't know why I made that weird noise. They kept Deshaun, and they came out and they said, we're not releasing him. We're not trading him today. And I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? What in the world are you doing with Deshaun Watson? First of all, he's not in a good position because he's literally being investigated for sexual assault, but he's getting paid like $10 million to do absolutely nothing. And now, basically, they're giving him a spot. The Houston Texans are giving him a spot on this roster, which basically means that they are down a person. They have a 52-man roster instead of a 53-man roster because he's not going to do anything. And even if they do ask him to do something, then he'll hold out because he wants to be traded. It's like, why would you not? It doesn't make any sense. But the Miami Dolphins have been out here left and right center going, oh yeah, like, let's get Deshaun here. Let's do it. We want him. We want him so bad. Give us Deshaun. Which also does not make any sense. Why do you want him? I get it. He's good. But with all that baggage? You want all of that baggage with Deshaun Watson? Whether he's guilty or not. Whether he did all this or not. If they find him not guilty, like, here's the two options, right? They find him not guilty. Odds are he gets put on the commissioner exempt list and he can't play for 8 weeks. That's half of a season. Or he is found guilty and he goes to prison. So you either get half a season of Deshaun Watson or you get no Deshaun Watson. Why would you want him? It rocks my brain. It doesn't make any sense. So on the Houston side, why would you keep him? On the Dolphins side, why do you want him? Deshaun Watson is just like a barrel of toxic waste at this point. He's either sitting there or burning you. Doing nothing. Doing absolutely nothing. So, what else was I going to say about this? Yeah, no, they're paying him $10 million to stay at home and attend meetings. Like, that's all he's doing right now. And like I said, 52-man roster. You lost a spot on your roster because you decided to keep Deshaun Watson around and he's not doing anything. Makes total sense. Get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, so that's still under investigation, though. They're still doing the legal processing with that. They're still figuring out what's going on. So that's the Deshaun Watson update. Okay, so moving on to cuts. Tuesday at 4 p.m. was the deadline for roster cuts. You had to get down to a 53-man roster. People were cut, people were traded, people were here, people were there. Lots of crazy stuff going on, but I just wrote down just a couple of really notable cuts that I was a bit surprised about. If you want to watch, like I said earlier, if you want to watch me, Hank, and Tom talk about the full 53-man roster for the New York Giants, if you're interested in that, we talked about a lot of cuts on there, who we have there, our full roster, so on and so forth. You guys can check out that video on the Big Blue Avenue YouTube page. However, these are a few notable cuts not on the Giants that I was surprised about. One of them is the Washington football team cut Peyton Barber, who is a running back. I think that Peyton Barber is a good running back. I think that he is solid. He was a solid backup for Antonio Gibson, but I don't know who beat him out of his job in Washington, but he got cut, and that really surprised me because I think that he is a solid running back. But he's gone. Staying within the NFC. Oh my God, I just realized most of my things here are from the NFC East. The second one is from the Eagles. The Eagles cut wide receiver Travis Fulgham. And I got a text from none other than Miss Jordan O'Rourke Coupe, Sporty Jordy, my token Eagles friend that I have. She texted me and she said, why did we do this? Because JJ Arcega-Whiteside is still on the roster and she's very upset about that. So, and honestly, I probably would be too. So Travis Fulgham is gone for the Eagles. I think that's a bit surprising, but I guess they have more wide receivers in this mix now and they didn't want him anymore. So that's what's going on there. And then the Cowboys, more NFC East, which will then I kind of go back to my point about Cam. The Cowboys released both Gilbert and DiNucci. Ben DiNucci, the man, the myth, the legend. But I mean, I kind of get it. If you watch my Hard Knocks updates, I said the first week, because I started on episode 2 because I couldn't do episode 1 because I was traveling. So episode 2 I started and I was like, Ben DiNucci looks good. Ben DiNucci's a solid backup. Good for Ben DiNucci. And then last week for episode 3, I said, the last thing that I remember from this episode is the fact that Ben DiNucci threw like 3 interceptions and lost the game for the Cowboys. So that's probably why. I get it. But also it's Ben DiNucci. I mean, I can't stop saying his name enough. And Gilbert. I don't know actually who's backing up Dak now for the Cowboys. Let's see, the Cowboys depth chart. But I think that's why they started eyeing Cam Newton, because there is this backup job available. So it would be a solid place for Cam to be. They only have 2 quarterbacks, Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. What a name. Cooper Rush, I remember him. I remember Cooper Rush. But yeah, so he's the backup for Dak. So I could see why it would make sense for them to target Cam Newton. If, however, he ends up in the NFC East, I will cry. Cool. And then there's 2 more from, actually one that's not too like crazy. The Saints released quarterback Trevor Siemian. I'm going to be super honest with you guys and be super transparent. I didn't know Trevor Siemian was on the New Orleans Saints. However, he was. So now that they have Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, I guess they don't need Trevor Siemian anymore. So they released Trevor, and they also released running back Devontae Freeman, who I was surprised about because Devontae Freeman has been around at this point. He's been going in and out of teams. He was in the Falcons, and then the Giants ended up picking him up for a little bit. And then the Giants got rid of him, and then he went to the Saints, and then now they released him. So he's a veteran running back. He's not horrible, but I feel like he's solid to have on your depth chart. But they ended up releasing Devontae Freeman. So those are the notable cuts from today. There's a ton more, like so many more, but those were like the ones that I was just mostly like, those caught my eye. So yeah, this is, we love cut day. We love cut day and we love Black Monday when all the coaches get fired. That's always really, really, really fun. Next on the list here is not really a storyline. I just wanted to share with you guys, in our next segment on the show, which is our Let's Talk About It segment. And this week on our Let's Talk About It segment, we are going to talk about fantasy football. Yeah, fantasy football. Because some of you guys don't know. I mean, you know me, I am a diehard NFL fan, love NFL, love watching football, all that good stuff. However, I've never done fantasy football before. There was a time, which actually I think it was like 2 years ago when I first started or 2 or 3 years ago when I first started the podcast. I used to have like a Yahoo Fantasy because I did the March Madness bracket when I was in college with my radio station. And it just assumed I wanted to do fantasy football and like auto drafted a team for me. And I discovered it when I like opened my Yahoo email and I just had a fantasy team. But I never did anything with it. I just let it sit there and I was like, whatever, I don't care. So now I'm on a real fantasy team for the first time in my life. And I want to give my thoughts about it. So I'm in a podcast group. It's because of Miss Jordan that I am here. She asked if me and a bunch of our other podcasting friends wanted to be in a league together. There's 10 of us. It includes Jordan. It includes our buddy Andy Hopper from the Brew Party, Tom Scavetta, Hank and Dichter from Big Blue Avenue Review Preview, a bunch of other mutual friends. So I was like, you know what? I've never done it before. I can't talk smack about it if I've never done it. So let me do fantasy for a year and see how this works out. Our draft was on Sunday. Let me tell you, I haven't been this stressed since finals in college. I was so stressed out watching and figuring out to draft and who I'm supposed to draft and do all this stuff. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. We'll see if I even make it through this season, to be quite honest with you. But I did pay for it, so I probably should seek it out till the end. But I did not really, I don't know what I was expecting in the drafting process. But what I didn't know for sure is when I think draft, I'm like, yeah, like the NFL draft. I get it. But this moves so much faster. It moves so fast. All of a sudden, I was picking, so we did a snake draft. There's 10 of us, and I was picking 9th. And Jordan was beautiful and wonderful enough to explain to me how this works, what kind of league we're in, which is PPR, in case you guys are wondering, and how I should draft in terms of points. Running backs, obviously, are very, very strong. Wide receiver, like, she's like, don't draft a kicker until the end, and like a defense and all this stuff. So she explained all this to me. I took notes because I'm studious, and I basically was like going into this, and I'm like, okay, thinking I would have like a lot of time to think about who I wanted to draft. No, all of a sudden, we're through like the first 5 picks in the first like minute. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm like not ready at all. So my first pick of the draft was Austin Eckler because I panicked. But then a lot of people were like, wow, what a really great pick. And I was like, oh my God, thanks. So actually we were on a Zoom, and after like my first like 5 picks, Andy from the Brew Party was just reassuring me every time I picked somebody, like, that's a great pick, that's a great pick. So, it made me feel a little bit better that I was picking good players. My name of my team, I named it today because I was thinking hard about it because I wanted it to be clever. So my, my fantasy team is Vaxxed and Running Backs. So that is my official team name. Because I'm vaccinated. And how do I use this app? I feel like an old person. It's like really horrible. Let's see. How do I see my roster? Okay. So my starting quarterback is Lamar Jackson. I have Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, Mark Andrews, Juju Smith-Schuster, Cleveland defense, and Younghoe Koo is my kicker, which I'm so stoked about. Oh my God. I literally was like, oh, he's available, and I'm going to get him. So I got Younghoe Koo because that kid's a freaking maniac with a football. So I have a bunch of other things. I won't bore you all with it. I will tell you one thing, though. A lot of my picks were with my head. This is what my dad has told me every time we used to do pools with him, when he would have football pools. And he said, you pick with your head and not your heart. Like, don't pick your favorite team because they're playing someone if you don't think they're going to win. And I said, yes. And I've taken this to heart with a lot of things. However, I let one heart pick go by me. I had everybody else I picked with my little noggin. I had one pick with my heart. And that is my backup quarterback, Joe Burrow. Because I needed one man's on my team. Jordan took Josh Allen from me. Andy took Justin Herbert from me. I said, I just want one man's on here. So I ended up getting Joe Burrow. So hopefully he plays an entire season. And during week 8, when the Ravens are on a bye, or maybe some other time, I'll just play Joe Burrow instead. So this is my fantasy. I just smacked my mic, sorry. This is my fantasy experience. I am stressed out. And I don't know if I will ever do this again. But again, I can't knock it until I fully try it. We'll see how this week goes. We'll see how week 1 goes. If I start winning, obviously I'll be a lot happier about things. But yeah, we'll see how this all goes. We'll see how it all unpacks. And I will give my review before playoff time. When this is all over, I'll give my fantasy review. And if I ever want to do this again, which it is very possible that I will not, because I cannot physically think about more things. Like, I'm focused on real teams, and now I have to think about teams that are fantasy. Stressing me out. Anyways, so that is my spiel there. But let's move on to our third segment on the show, which is our tweet of the week. Our tweet of the week this week goes with 2 of our storylines for this week. Our first storyline about Bishop Sycamore High School, and our second storyline about Cameron Newton getting cut from the New England Patriots. And this tweet comes from none other than Barstool Sports, and they tweeted out, breaking news. This is also over, they quoted the Adam Schefter tweet about the Patriots releasing Cam Newton. They said, breaking, with a bunch of siren emojis. Cameron Newton has committed to Bishop Sycamore. It made me laugh. I hope it made you laugh too. To think about Cam Newton going to this school that it just is hilarious. But anyway, I thought it was a funny joke. I thought it was a funny meme. And that is our tweet of the week this week. And finally, to end off our show for this week is our feel-good story. We haven't done one of these in a while. I don't know if this is a feel-good story for everybody, but it is a feel-good story for me. I feel very good about it. I cracked myself up. Our feel-good story of the week this week is that we saw Drew Brees in the broadcasting booth, preseason week 3, with his brand new broadcasting hair. He got plugs or something, or maybe it's a toupee. I don't know, but it looks great. It's probably like really expensive, and he got like the best of the best. It looks fantastic. He was in there with Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels. They were talking about his retirement. He was talking about spending time with his family, and he is now a part of the Sunday Night Football Night in America on NBC. So we get to see him every week. Which for me, someone who loves Drew Brees, who has loved Drew Brees for quite some time now, I've loved him for a very long time, and I was very emotional when he finally announced that he was retiring. I gave him my ode on this show. To be able to see him still on TV and hear him talk and, have his input on things as a football analyst, I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited to listen to Drew. And he's very well spoken. His voice is like a summer breeze, if you will. Get it? Drew Brees, summer breeze. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. That is going to do it for this week's episode. Guys, again, don't forget to subscribe on all podcasting platforms and on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to follow us on social media, on Twitter at TGWTS Podcast, and on Instagram and TikTok at The Girl Who Talks Sports. I hope you all have a fun, fantastic, sports-filled day, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye!